If you like to laugh, and who doesn't, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. Frank Powell is a real estate broker who was born and raised in San Diego, along with Frank's brother Mark, a real estate broker who also lives in San Diego. Each week, the Powell brothers bring in a special guest comedian to share hilarious real estate stories so you can learn what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership. So now, let's get into it with My Funny House. Here are your hosts, Frank and Mark Powell on The Answer San Diego.
Good morning, Frank, and welcome to My Funny House.
With the Powell brothers, Mark and Frank Powell.
Two real estate brokers working here in San Diego, California. This week, we have a very interesting show. It's on HOAs or homeowners associations.
And everybody loves their HOA, don't they, Mark?
Yes, Frank, can you tell me what an HOA actually does?
Okay, so there's a lot of listeners that probably are in a HOA, homeowner association. So what you do is, typically if you're in an apartment building or in a community where they have a HOA, there's a group of people that live there, the homeowners, and they make an association. There's a president, secretary, and everyone who takes notes and people who contribute. And what it does, it sets rules and regulations to what you can and cannot do in that neighborhood.
And there's a lot of things that you can do, but there's a lot of things that you cannot do. And we're going to be talking about both what you can and cannot do, how much they can charge you. Before we move any further, we're going to bring in our co-host, Maria Herman. Comedian Maria Herman is the co-producer of Comedy Heights in San Diego. It's a venue for comedians all over the city. She also entertained the troops in Afghanistan with comedy, and she is from Australia, from what I understand. She had a very strange life in the outback with kangaroos and whatnot. But let's bring her on right now.
Maria, are you on?
And I'm right here, and now I continue the strange life by being on a morning show with two realtors.
It's true.
Yeah, the first ever. So we're talking about as you heard, HOAs, and there's a lot of good things. I'm going to say the good things, but we know everyone has a nightmare story about HOAs, and the people I talk to are kind of goes back and forth. But the HOA, what it's meant to really do is protect the neighborhood. What do I mean by protect? It keeps the values of all the homes or the complex better than it would be if it didn't have an HOA. For example, they take care of the roofs, right? They
Correct.
take care of the painting, right?
Correct.
They take care of the plumbing and fire extinguishers and making sure that the fire codes are regulated. They take care of the ground maintenance. They make sure that you can't put a rusty car in your front yard, and that you can't paint your house bright pink compared to the others. So that has been proven that if you do it correctly, it enhances and increases and maintains the value of that community, which is good when you're selling your house. On the other hand...
Well, let me tell you, Frank is correct. Maria, Frank is correct.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
But not all HOA...
Wow, my big brother's making sure I'm correct.
Like it. So, but not all HOAs cover all of those things. So some will just cover exterior landscaping and things like that. So it depends on what your HOA's responsibilities are. But I can tell you one thing that an HOA did to somebody is they said you cannot have a certain size dog, and that dog was a comfort dog. It was for emotional support. So what happens in that situation?
I think you make sure that you don't give the dog too much food. Keep it under the weight limit. I didn't know HOAs. You can't. I thought that was maybe in a rental situation. An HOA will have. How about if your husband is overweight? I mean, is the HOA going to get on that? Because I could have a problem. In fact, if you wanted to get rid of your spouse, that might be a great way to do it. I'm sorry, the HOA says you've got to go. I can't keep you anymore.
I hope not, because then Mark and I will have to bring a scale when we show the house.
Right, we'd be in big trouble if weight was a criteria. One other HOA told these owners that they could not have pink flamingos in their front yard, and in fact they fined them. It was over $3,000 in fines. They refused.
Was that in Florida?
I'm not really sure exactly. I have it right here. Pink flamingos.
It would be kind of weird in Connecticut. See, I could understand.
Yeah.
If there's an HOA in Connecticut going, those pink flamingos really don't work. But in Florida, I mean, I don't know.
It was
that's an expectation, isn't it? Aren't you supposed to have at least one in the yard?
Exactly.
My mother-in-law loves those pink flamingos, and she put them in my yard. I don't have an HOA, but I was hoping someone would come and steal them. But of course, they're still there.
Well, I'm going to steal them tonight.
I would. You know what? I was thinking, if you were in the HOA, you might just order a bunch of flamingos just to make sure you have revenue, and just stick them out in the middle of the night and go, well, you put the flamingo there. I'm sorry, but you know, we have to fine you. So sorry.
Yeah. Our HOA needs more money. Just start sticking the pink flamingo and give them a ticket. I like that one. What are the horror stories that we have on?
Well,
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I knew we were going to be talking about HOAs this morning, and I've never been in one, but my mother has an HOA with her apartment building in Australia. And so I called her to get a little bit of information, you know, find out what's different down under, right? And the funniest thing about it is what they call it. She lives in Burswood. It's the Burswood Residents Association, but everyone calls it the BRA.
Association.
Gotcha.
They don't call it the HOA, they call it the BRA. I said, are you serious?
No.
Like, that sounds to me like you'd only have 2 residents in it. Apparently there's a lot. I asked Mum, I said, are the men going in the bra? She said, the men can't wait to get in the bra. I would think people would be busting to get out, but apparently not. So everybody's trying to get into this thing. And she said they have an A rating, and she said they're even going for a AA rating, which supposedly is supposed to be.
That's the smallest rating they have, the AA rating.
Does your mom have any?
That's what I thought.
Does your mom have any pink koala bears in her front yard?
Pink kangaroos.
Yes, absolutely. It's all a necessity. Everything in pink all the time, especially the men in the bra. That's how that works.
I have to tell you one other thing that this HOA did, okay? This is incredible. They had a rule that said no businesses, okay?
No businesses.
And so what they did was they told this little girl she could not have a lemonade stand. It was considered a business. What do you do?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They actually did. They fought, and they actually got the girl to have the lemonade stand, but someone from the HOA told the girl, you got to take down your lemonade stand.
Can you imagine your girl, you set up your lemonade stand and somebody's walking by, the nosy neighbor, of course, and says, you're conducting business, you can't do it anymore? But that's the kind of stuff that happens. But those are the nightmares. There's good and the bad about HOAs.
I think maybe that person in the HOA would prefer a hard lemonade stand. That's
what they need. She needs to have a drink.
I like at this point, I would love to be able to bring on my guest, if that's okay with you guys.
Absolutely.
So we've had him on the show before. He's very funny. He's headlined in Las Vegas. He's a very good friend of mine. Please make him welcome the incredibly funny Tony Calabrese.
Hey, Tony. How are you? Good morning.
I'm live, semi-live anyway, from San Diego, California. How are you?
Good morning, Tony.
I had to do the DJ voice for just a second.
We love your DJ voice.
I've been listening to this. I think that little girl at the lemonade stand, I'm willing to, if they pay me a small cut of that lemonade stand, I'm willing to offer to protection from homeowners associations.
Yeah, we know. We heard that might happen with the Calabreses.
I don't think anyone would complain if they had a lemonade stand in front of your house, even if they had a HOA. They'd probably just buy the lemonade.
Yeah, well, you got to have a percentage, though. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, just give me a cut.
So now,
I live in an HOA right now. So I deal with these people all the time. So I'm used to it.
Another one, Tony, is this guy bought a truck and he couldn't fit his truck in the garage, and the HOA had a rule that said you cannot leave your car parked in the driveway. So they started fining him. What do you do with that?
Well, I think you go to that board meeting and you say, hey, I'd like to make you an offer, you can't refuse. And no, I mean, we have the same thing. You're not allowed to park in your driveway here. And I think, but first of all, people have to understand what HOA stands for. It means, HOA, you're not going to build that here. So that's what they do. Actually, a homeowners association is just a large group of Karens, and I think that's what we have to deal with. I've had a couple of problems with mine. I mean, I was accused. I got a letter saying that we've been informed. This is from the property management company that is employed by the HOA. The property management company sent me a letter saying that I had a satellite on my roof, and it had to be removed, satellite dish. And I don't have a satellite dish. So I called and I said, hey, I don't have a satellite dish. Oh, no problem. Following month, this just happened, just after Thanksgiving. Then last month I got another letter saying, you're not in compliance, you didn't remove your satellite dish, you have to appear before the board. So just a couple weeks ago, I had to appear, the first action of the new year, before the board of your HOA. Now, if you've ever had to do this, it is a very interesting concept. You go in there and they're like, Mr. Calabrese.
Yes.
So, what do you have to say for yourself? It's that kind of a thing. And I said, and by the way, the woman that accused me of this is obviously single and has 20 cats, but she's...
and blind.
She's really upset. And she was there with this paper shaking, and I'm like, I don't have a satellite dish. And they're like, what? I've never had a satellite dish. It was the condo next to me had a satellite dish on the roof. And she actually stood up and said, well, he wants to have one.
Oh, God.
How do you even respond to that? It's like, well, no, I have cable. I don't really need a satellite dish, but, it's that kind of crazy.
Yes. Why would that irritate a person so much just to someone have a satellite dish? Those are the kind of things that don't make sense to me. But the important thing is that, since we're both brokers, you have to understand, when you are selling a property or buying a property with a HOA, you have to get those HOA docs. You have to read those HOA docs, because there's all sorts of stuff on every page. You have to read those in and out. Tell your agent to read it to you if there's a problem.
You also have to make sure your HOA is solvent, which means they have enough money to conduct business. So if the streets need to be repaved in the neighborhood, they have enough money to hire the asphalt paving company to do that. And also, you need to attend meetings, because an HOA typically cannot just arbitrarily give you an assessment. Now, assessment is based upon the needs of the association. We just had a property that I know of had a $48,000 HOA assessment, and it was due. It was just due. They didn't spread it out over months.
Everybody had to pay $48,000 to do the outside of this building to make sure it was repainted and restuccoed. So imagine selling a house to a person, they move in, and all of a sudden they get a $48,000 bill. So as brokers and clients, you have to make sure that you tell them right away.
Now, there's going to be an assessment.
There's going to be a big assessment to replace the roof. The value will go up once it's done, but you may be hit with a big bill.
Yeah.
That's
If you know
between-
what the assessment is, let them know. Sometimes you don't know what the assessment's going to be until they get all the contractors
Talk to
out
the
there.
neighbors. There's always somebody that knows what's going on. When we show a house and we see somebody walking out of an HOA, we have a conversation with them and say, hey, can you update us on what's going on with the minutes of the meeting? Because we have a client that wants to purchase a property here. And they'll give you some advice as well. So always talk to neighbors as well.
Right, that's correct.
It sounds very serious. I think it would be a lot less serious if we just renamed the HOA the BRA. It sounds like a much better way to go. It's way more supportive. Come to the meetings. You'll have a great time.
I actually love my HOA. I mean, they take care of everything outside, and I personally don't do yard, so. You don't have to deal with any of that, mowing, doing all that kind of stuff. I don't have to do anything. They just take care of everything, and I just, pay them my monthly homeowners dues, and it feels a little like extortion, but I'm cool with it. I'm used, it's the way of the world.
Tony, who buries the bodies, though? I thought that was your job. Hey.
You don't bury the bodies on your own property.
Tony, you need to get a dish plate and just tape it up on your wall outside just to drive that lady more crazy. There's the dish. I knew he had one.
Here's the thing. There's two things that I don't like. One of them is yard, and the other is gravity. So I'm not climbing up anything to put anything anywhere.
Yeah, that's so,
You can get a big blow-up Sputnik and put it on top of your roof, and then tell them there's my satellite,
The only thing on my roof is probably old Frisbees, and, I don't know, my boys, when they were young, probably climbed up there and smoked. Other than that, I've got no idea.
Well, HOAs do serve a good purpose, and we've dealt with them on multiple levels. We've always had positive experiences working with HOAs.
You asked me about that dog, but there is, with the whole, when somebody has a therapy dog, There's a lot of people now that have, for their PTSD, they'll have a therapy dog that will outweigh the recommended weight, which is like 30 to 45 pounds. But you could talk to the HOA, and they can also make exceptions.
But also, there was some rules with certain HOAs where you can't have certain breeds of dogs.
Well, there's also, listen.
So what if you had a therapy dog that was a Rottweiler or a Pit Bull, a big one, can they say?
Well, then you just go, this is a rescue dog I got from Mexico, and I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
What about barking seals? Can they do anything about that?
Yeah, that's the La Jolla you can get you.
Right. And that's,
there's a problem with the barking seals now. That's another, we talked about a different subject, material facts, but you do got to tell people, hey, by the way, the waves will get loud, and you may not be able to sleep when the waves are crashing against the rocks, and these seals will bark all night, and there's a whole bunch of them now. They're sea lions, and they are loud and vocal.
So let me ask you this: as long as it comes underweight, can you have a therapy seal? Is that a possibility?
I think you can. You should go, Maria. Listen, go catch one. Teach them how to balance a ball on the nose.
You don't know me. Just give me the challenge.
Oh, that's right. You're from Australia. You could probably bring one home.
Now here's the opposite of HOA. So here's the opposite. So what if you live in a neighborhood and your neighbor is up in the middle of the night working on their cars? They're not making a lot of noise, but there's some lights out there. Are there any other rules that can be enforced to stop him from doing that or her from doing it?
Well, if there's no HOA?
If there's no HOA, what can you do?
Well,
call me.
Sounds like time for a big stick.
Call Tony.
Yeah, call Tony. Yeah. Well, there's another thing. All neighborhoods, even if you live in an old neighborhood in San Diego, it'd be built before 1964. There's something called CC&Rs.
What does that stand for?
Conditions, covenants, and restrictions. And those are on every neighborhood of every city. So there are things that you cannot do. For example, I can't get a pet giraffe and put him in my backyard. I don't have an HOA, right? I can't train a bison to sit in front of my house. I can grow weed, but maybe 6 plants, but I can't have a marijuana farm, right? Now that it's legal. And that's under the CC&Rs. So even though the HOA doesn't cover it, you can get nailed by your CC&Rs in your neighborhood.
Correct. That is correct. What do you
got? Go back to the giraffe. I'm really wondering what you were thinking there.
I was impressed you were going to train a bison, but to sit in your front yard. I mean, I didn't know you could train a bison at all.
Let me tell you something.
Unique animal choices. I'm just going to say.
I have the reason why I said that because I have a unique background. I was actually invited in Florida to the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, and the big thing was a guy who trained a bison, and it was supposed to be tamed. And I went there with a production studio, and in the rehearsal, the bison runs out of the tent. Okay, got pissed, makes it through the door, and is going in Florida, and they lose the bison. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I brought back flashbacks.
How do you lose?
Yeah, the bison was lost, and it 3 hours later they found it in a parking lot at a store, and it was eating grass, and it was huge. If you've never stood by a bison, they're insanely huge. Anyway, so you can't have a bison.
No.
This is a strictly American thing.
So the best thing to do if you're moving into a neighborhood,
know your HOA and know your CC&Rs.
Correct.
You should get a copy of the CC&Rs as well as the HOAs, because no matter what you think, no matter where you live, you will always have restrictions. Even though if your house was 40 acres, you're free and clear, you paid for it, you never really own it. If you don't pay those taxes, you'll know really fast. So just know the rules around your house.
Okay. And then who's supposed to give you those documents?
Well, you are.
Me?
Mark gives them. No, when you're doing the process, you make sure you order the HOA.
That's true. The seller typically is the person responsible for providing the HOA. They order them during a period called escrow, which is a different topic. We'll talk about that in a different show.
You got to relinquish all your paperwork.
Correct. And HOAs.
And no service bisons. Make sure that's in there.
No comfort bisons.
But I'm thinking of going, instead of calling them HOAs, I think we should start calling them bras. I like that idea. It's a big idea.
I like it too.
You know? It's a big idea for a couple of reasons.
It could be a big idea, but I think it'll cover everyone, depending on the size. There'll be one that fits the appropriate
One size fits all?
members.
I remember when you first said that, I thought you said bar. So that would also be a good one if you just go bra or a bar. I'd rather go to
Yeah.
a bar meeting.
Bar should be even better.
Right.
You can't pronounce our R's. You get used to it.
Yeah.
So and HOAs will vary, like we said, HOAs will vary depending on the community. So you have HOAs that cover a lot of things. You have HOAs that cover a few things. You have HOAs for condominium complexes, and you have HOAs for single-family housing development places. So make sure you know what that HOA does in fact cover.
If I was Tony, I would really think about getting on the HOA because you could be a board member. And if you're a board member, you can kind of influence what's going on. Can you imagine Tony as a president of a HOA? Nothing would happen in that community.
Well, how do we
Or everything. I mean, it could go
or
either way.
everything, right.
What about the woman with the cats? We talked a lot about dogs, and I've got lots of people have cats. Can you have as many cats as you want? Not that I'm planning my future or anything, but
that whole cat thing's very strange.
Could be.
Hey, if we did want to get a hold of Tony Calabrese, Maria, what's the best way, or Tony, what's the best way to get a hold of either one of you for future events?
Maria?
well, you can look for Comedy Heights on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have our Comedy Heights website. That's the best way to go to get to me. I'm Maria Home Comedy on all the other handles. And Tony?
You get a hold of me either on TonyCalabrese.com or Facebook, Instagram, all the social media platforms. So.
Hey, Tony, are we going to see you on...
The guy with the baseball bat. That's...
What about your dry bar? Are you going to do that?
That's supposed to be coming out. They called me and said it's going to be any day now, so we'll see.
Okay, for the listeners who don't know, there's if you go on YouTube, there's something called the Dry Bar, which is a bunch of comedians and is giving a performance on a dry bar.
Right.
And you can see Tony live, and he is one of the funniest characters.
He's really funny.
So follow him, and also Maria, super hilarious. We want to thank you guys for joining us. My Funny House with the Powell brothers, making it happen. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you. And call us if you need anything.
Yeah.
PowellBrothers.com.
PowellBrothersRealty.com. Get in touch with us.
Thanks so much for joining us today for My Funny House with the Powell Brothers, right here on The Answer San Diego. Join us next week as the Powell Brothers bring you more funny stories of what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership, and bring the laughs to you with yet another hilarious guest comedian. To find out more about the Powell Brothers, be sure to check out their website at powellbrothersrealty.com, or you can visit myfunnyhouse.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week for My Funny House on The Answer San Diego.